Hi, gang. It's JT.
And Patrick.
Coming up on today's episode, we revisit the 1970 animated movie The Aristocats in our ongoing series, Take Two. As always, we discuss the latest Disney news, and we close out the show with some quick D. All that and more on today's episode of Gays Do the D.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Patrick, why men great till they gotta be great? Kazuki. There's a reason.
Oh dear. Is that directed at me? Or
No, there's a specific themed reason for that specific middle name today.
Fair.
That we'll get to.
Fair enough. JT saucer of milk Landry.
Oh, if I had a dime.
You'd have 10 cents.
I'd have 10 whole cents. Patrick, how are you?
Yes. Oh, let's just get right into it.
Right into the mental health wellness check.
It's always mental health wellness awareness week in my house. I'm good. You know, I'm getting, I think all four of, like, Kale's currently traveling. I think Ryan's traveling soon. You're coming to Minneapolis, I feel like, this next week or something.
Yeah, actually.
Or is that still happening?
No, it is. I'm literally flying up with the birds on Monday morning.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
And flying back on Tuesday afternoon. It's a very fast trip.
That's all you need in Minneapolis. and I'm heading, so full disclosure, we're recording very early
yes,
this
we
episode, because technically it doesn't come out for another 2 weeks. So anything that's actual news has already, we're not covering it apparently today. But because we're all traveling, I'm traveling to Orlando to go on the StarCruiser. So my brain is sort of in that, do I have everything ready to go?
Do you know your name? Do you know?
I don't. I know everything.
What can
but
you
my
see?
name right
What
now.
can you touch? What can you taste? What can you hear?
I like it. Someone's been meditating.
Someone better. Wait, now remind me. Now, what are you going? When are you going? When are you boarding the StarCruiser? Is it a weekend excursion into space? Is it during the week?
Excellent question. So I fly to Orlando on Tuesday, but we board the ship on Wednesday, and it's like a mid-afternoon or early afternoon boarding, and so there are no flights that would have gotten me in on Wednesday, so I had to fly out a day early, and then I'm flying out a day afterwards. So yeah.
Are we literally going to pass each other in the Minneapolis St. Paul airport?
Well, let's have a discussion right now in front of all of our tweeters.
Okay, great.
I will. So you get in Monday morning. So you and I could potentially grab a drink or a dinner Monday evening if you wanted to, if you're available. I'm not sure what your
I will
time is.
Keep you posted on. I'm still determining the work schedule, and the funny thing is this will all have passed by the time this episode comes out.
I know. You heard it here first, though,
and
listeners.
First and
JT
last.
is leaving me unread.
Yes. No. No, but I was actually, if you're leaving on Tuesday from the airport, I leave from the Minneapolis airport on Tuesday to come back to Nashville. So I wonder if we will literally
early
pass
Tuesday morning
each other.
or
No, Tuesday afternoon.
I'm very, very. I'm an early flight out kind of a guy. I like that first flight to get out.
Well, we won't
town.
bore our tweedles, but we'll take this discussion offline and figure out something for Monday.
They've been bored for years.
They haven't been interested for 50 years.
Yes. All that to say, I'm well, JT. I'm well.
Good. Thank goodness for that.
Yes, so much. And how are you, sir?
I am doing well today.
I woke up. Noticed it was a new day.
I dressed myself. I got out of the house and went to work, and now I'm here talking to you, which makes the day fantastic. So it's been a rainy day here. We actually had some really bad storms. Again, this is very old news that'll happen 2 weeks from now when you hear this. So it's very rainy evening in Nashville, which is actually very appropriate for what we're talking about today. So, but yes, I'm doing well. I got a call back for a play. So we'll see what happens with that. And yeah, we're getting towards the end of summer, and I'm really glad about that because I do not like summer unless I am in a pool or at a beach.
Fair enough. May I embarrass you in front of the Tweedles for just one moment?
Oh my gosh. I think so.
Because she's an award winner, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, she is.
You recently won an award for your performance in a recent show. Congratulations.
I did. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, the theater that I do most of my play acting at.
Play practice.
Yes, we had our annual awards banquet. I guess just like a week or so ago, a couple weeks ago, and yes, I did win a Best Supporting Actor award.
I love it.
Yes,
very exciting.
I know how to support.
You do it so well here on the podcast.
Thank you.
I like it. Oh, and also you just recently saw Beyonce. I'm just going to keep singing your praises and
please,
accolades.
Because I had nothing to do with Saturday night seeing Beyonce. That was all. Although no.
Disagree.
Actually, no. Disagree because. Now, Patrick, you will have seen Beyonce by the time this episode. Everything will have happened by the time this episode comes out. But that's you're seeing Beyonce 2 nights from when we're recording this. I saw her 2 nights ago.
Yes.
In Nashville. We were the second stop on the North American leg of the Renaissance World Tour. And I have to say, yes, kudos to me because if you're going to see Beyonce, and this is a PSA for all of our Tweedles that are going to see Beyonce, make sure you're on your Zoom.
Oh.
Because if you will listen to the song Energy, there's a part where she sings, "Look around, everybody on mute." You are to be silent as the grave when she tells you to be on mute. And let me tell you something, no shade to our European Tweedles out there, but most of these European dates fell short of the assignment.
Oh, no.
And I'm afraid that Philadelphia, the first stop on the U.S. tour, fell short of the assignment. Nashville was the first city to go entirely on mute.
Wow.
When she told us to go on mute, we went on mute.
Listen, you know how to follow directions.
Also, kudos to me and the other 50,000, 60,000 people in the national audience, because on Love on Top, the crowd will keep modulating and going up and up and up.
Yeah.
Towards the end, she was like, "How are y'all in perfect pitch?" And I was like,
Nashville.
Listen, it's Bish, it's Music City. That's how. Because everybody in that stadium is either a singer or a failed singer or something.
Fair.
So that's how we were on perfect pitch. But yes, Beyonce was incredible. Tweedles, if you get a chance to see her, don't walk, run to your local stadium. And if you have not been able to get tickets, honestly, day of, I had friends that were getting tickets like day of. So keep checking.
Yeah. Don't
lose faith.
Fair.
Go see Queen Bee. She's amazing. Patrick, you're going to have the best time.
I'm very excited. I'm very, very, very excited. I've seen her before, but I hear that this tour is exceptional. So.
Oh gosh, it is. It just feels very expensive, the production and everything.
Yeah. Well, it felt very expensive when I purchased the tickets as well. So.
Yeah, fair enough. Yes. No, that's very true. Are you going to buy some merch?
Oh, who knows? I have as I approach my mid 40s, I'm less of a merch kind of person. When it comes to like concert T-shirts and stuff, I don't know. They're never the quality I want them to be. And am I really going to wear it? I don't know. We'll see.
May I say that the now I'm going to throw a little shit. Now I'm going to say this. And I mean, everyone listening that has listened to our podcast knows that I'm a Swiftie. I'm going to say that her merch was not the best quality merch on this tour.
Okay.
However, the Beyonce merch is very high quality.
Okay.
Very high quality. This t-shirt is thick.
Oh,
THIQUE.
It's thickums.
It's that's that thick. No, it's very like thick, high quality.
Okay.
So yeah.
See, I'm more interested in like, is there like a coffee cup or
there is
a
not
Tumblr?
There is not. There is a fan.
Okay,
there is a fan.
I have
that
a
says,
weird amount of fans that I don't
okay.
see
Well,
on, but.
what's one more? And it says "Heated" on it because that's the song where she's like, "Got to fan myself off."
Got it.
What I loved about at least in my section, I mean, I will say for our Tweedles, this is a concert for the queer community. This is literally a celebration of like queer and Black excellence for about 2.5 hours.
Love it.
There were so many people in our sections. All I could hear around me were just like fans like snapping constantly.
Amazing.
Like all night long. It was incredible.
Amazing. All right.
Yeah.
Well, here we are.
All right. So anyway, but that's not why we're here tonight.
No, we're 10 minutes in and we have yet to talk about anything
Disney related. Yeah. Let's fix that now.
Let's do it. Where should we go? Where should we go first?
Patrick, do you want to start with some celebrations? Because
I do.
I love to celebrate things, and you love to celebrate things, and our Tweedles love to celebrate things.
Absolutely. Celebrate good times. Come on. Let's see. Who do we have first? Do you
want to kick us off?
I would love to. At Fun Jeff kicks us off with off to Orlando for a work conference and some quality time with the mouse. It's so needed. You need some quality time.
So needed. Do you think Fun Jeff is actually going to go to any sessions at his conference?
I certainly hope not.
I know. I hope not. It'd be so disappointing if he did.
Yeah.
At HB Dondi, getting tickets to Oogie Boogie Bash.
Ooh.
Good luck for a trip wonderfully planned by Chris from Wishful Thinking.
Oh, good job. You know what? I have faith that you are getting those tickets for.
I actually know that he did get the tickets.
Oh, good. Okay, fantastic.
Yes. So congrats and good on you for that.
Well, when you work with Chris, he does make magic happen.
That's right.
That's just a fact.
Chris could get Beyonce Oogie Boogie Bash tickets.
Probably. He probably got them for Beyonce as
probably.
Well. Who knows? And rounding out the celebrations, we have a fan favorite here on the pod, at Sean Cruz, saying, Seeing Into the Woods tour with Stephanie J. Block and Gavin Creel. Boy, am I jealous.
It is so good.
Yeah.
So good, Sean Cruz.
You went and
I
saw it
wish
with
I could see it again.
I know.
Kale and I did see it together. That was an extra special treat.
For the audience, really.
For the audience, truly, yes. And for the cast on stage.
That's right.
You could not tell us anything in that theater.
Nope.
Yes. That's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. Congratulations. And thank you for sending us in those celebration moments. We didn't have a lot this time because we only had a day to get to them all because, again, we're recording like days after our last episode aired. So we're in a little bit of a pinch this week.
But we have a couple other things or people to celebrate because, Patrick, we have 2 new Patreon members.
We do indeed. One Ernest and one Michael are our new Patreon family members. And I think I'm a little belated in announcing these because I'm just a terrible host on Gaze to the D. So sorry if you didn't hear your name weeks ago when you should have. You're hearing it now. We thank you. We love you.
Tweedles Patrick is on to his next adventure, and we are searching for a new co-host.
I am? Oh, my goodness.
We are doing an internal and external search.
Oh, goodness. Should I check the mail for a pink slip?
Here's the part of the story you might not like.
Yeah. Stay tuned to the news. There's a lot coming up.
Oh, goodness gracious me.
Yeah, fantastic. But thank you, Ernest and Michael, for joining our Patreon family. JT, I haven't given you the pleasure of telling our Tweedles how they can become Patreon members. Do you know it in the somewhere in that mind? Do you know the script in the back of your head?
I do. If you would like to be a Patreon member and support us in our Gaze to the D endeavors and our personal endeavors like Beyonce concerts and Beyonce merch. Actually, no, we would never do that.
Absolutely not.
No. No, but to become a patron of the podcast is super easy. All you have to do is you can go to our website, gazetothed.com/donate, and you can become a Patreon member there. That gets you exclusive access to extra Gaze to the D content and just lets us continue bringing you the best gay Disney news on the planet and being the gayest Disney news place on earth, right?
That's absolutely true.
Yes.
Absolutely true.
No, but we have a lot of, it does give you access to a lot of great things. Like, for instance, our upcoming Patreon exclusive happy hour. the happiest hour on earth coming up July 31st at
the day this episode airs. Actually,
the day this episode airs at 6 p.m.
6 p.m. Central.
6 p.m. Central Time.
Eastern.
5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific.
Right,
and outside of that, you're on your own.
You're on your own. We do have quite a few international Tweedles, so you have to figure it out yourself, though.
Subtract it. Yes. And if you're on the international date line, I really don't know what to tell you.
I can't answer that.
It might be July 30th. It might be August 1st. I don't know.
That's right.
But yes, hopefully we would love to have you as a Patreon member if you would like to so join, as much or as little as you would like to donate.
That's absolutely true. Join the party. You know what? It occurs to me, I would love, here's a challenge, Tweedles out there, because I always feel like that they are reading the script along with us when we announce what Patreon is, where you can go. Send us some voice memos of you doing your pitch for Patreon. We will play it here on the podcast. We want to hear your version of becoming a Patreon member.
That is a brilliant idea, Patrick.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank
you. You know what? The search is called off for a new co-host.
I'm back?
You're back. Patrick, you're back.
Oh, phew.
Don't call it a comeback.
Okay, great. Good. I'm back.
Not a comeback, but we do have some listener feedback.
We do.
Did you like that?
I loved that.
Okay.
Do you want to read Mr. Kevy Kev's?
Oh my gosh, I would love to. Mr. Kevy Kev says, thank you for embracing the full spectrum of emotions. Mr. Kevy Kev has listened to this episode right off the bat because it only released 2 days ago. Thank you for that. He says, thank you for embracing the full spectrum of emotions that Disney allows us to feel. The moment that got me going the most wasn't even a character's passing. It was when Mama Coco revealed she had the missing piece of the photo of her father after being restored by his song for her. I'm getting a little misty just thinking about it. So am I. That is a moment in that movie.
That's right. It was on my list. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sending us that feedback, Mr. Kevy Kev.
Thank you, Mr. Kevy Kevs, and keep that feedback coming in. We want to hear your Disney emotional moments from Disney cinematic history. Speaking of, we have one more. It's been a while since we've had a voice memo, but it's been a very long while, too long, in fact, that we've had one from one of our very favorite Tweedles, Auntie Myrna, sent us the following voice memo.
Gentlemen, it's Auntie Myrna here. You'll note that I have a very stern voice. Sirs, the absolute audacity. How very dare you make me get into all of my feels, and I'm sure all of the Tweedles, in the best possible way. What a great episode. Let me start off by Ryan and JT. Excuse you, sirs. Very different topics hit me the exact same way. Us Canadian Tweedles went to go see Onward right before the lockdown, and it's morbid humor for us, but we're part of the DDD club, the Dead Dad Club. So we all banded together to go see this movie, and it did exactly what it needed to do. And then JT, I'm walking down the street, and all of a sudden, just floods of emotion for my dad. So thank you for your words in being vulnerable as well. Patrick and Kale. Yes. All the yeses. I was right there with you. See, I'm tearing up just thinking about how beautiful you gentlemen are. Love it. So I just want to say kudos for a very good episode. I think we all needed those ups and downs. And again, the best possible way. And I'm sure a lot of feedback is going to come your way. So I'm just going to leave it with Carl's date. Love you all so much, and keep being the beauties that you are. Love from Canada.
I mean, come on, Auntie Myrna.
Oh my gosh, Auntie Myrna is like making me tear up, and I was literally tearing up listening to her voicemail.
She's great. She's great.
We need to figure out a way for the co-host and Auntie Myrna to meet in real life.
Well, let's just go to Canada.
Okay, great. Perfect.
I feel like things are shifting in that direction.
Safer there anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you're totally right. If you haven't seen the new short, Carl's Date, it's so good. It's so good.
It is so cute.
Just beautiful.
Thank you so much, Auntie Myrna, for that voice memo. That was very special to hear. Yeah.
It was very special to hear. And speaking of another call out for more voice memos or emails or slip into our DMs, we are looking for send us some pigeons. We are looking for all of your questions for an upcoming Questions and Peter Pantsers episode. It'll hopefully be part of our 5-year anniversary episode. 5 years, JT.
5
Incredible.
years. It feels like an eternity. Is that dog years?
Yeah. It's true. It's really, really true. Yeah. So very exciting. Send us those. We'll do some Instagram call outs for it as well. But start flooding our inboxes with your questions so we can read them on the pod. And send us your voice memos because we want to have you hear your own voice on the podcast. Come on.
What a time that's going to be.
I mean, I'm excited. I'm going to be so drunk for it. So drunk.
Well, I think we'll need to be.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, honestly, you talk about tearing up in this week's episode and the feedback. I mean, you know, it's going to be just an absolute river.
It's true. Of drunken tears.
Happy tears, drunken tears.
That's right. Oh, great. All right. Where are we going next, JT? Let's do this ship.
I would like to go to class.
Ooh.
And learn some Disney history.
Well, I just happen to have 2 teachings for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready. My pencil is up.
All right. Only one of them will be a quiz. I'll save that one for the last one.
Okay.
Well, the first one I didn't really know how to make it into a quiz, but it's just kind of a neat tidbit, a birthday.
Try harder.
Fair enough. A double birthday, though. So that's right. On July 31st, 1967, Tom and Tony Bancroft were born in California. Now, the Bancroft twins were among the first animators selected to work at the Disney MGM Studios in Florida. So Tom is best known for animating the character Mushu in Mulan. He also worked on Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, and Pocahontas. And then Tony, his twin brother, was an animator on The Rescuers Down Under, also Beauty and the Beast, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Mary Poppins Returns, and Disenchanted. He was also one of the co-directors of the animated version of Mulan.
Come on, Bancroft twins.
Come on, twins. I had no idea that there were twin animators in the Disney studios.
I did not know that either. Have they ever had an opportunity to work together and animate twin characters?
Wouldn't that be hilarious? I mean, maybe on Beauty and the Beast there could have been some twins in the crowd. Who knows?
That's
maybe
true.
The sisters, the 3 sisters. Maybe they would have done them.
Maybe the Gargoyles and Hunchback.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
I like it. All right. Are you ready for your test, JT?
Always.
Okay. All right. I'm sure you know this one, but on July 31st, 1997, so 26 years ago, this musical made its pre-Broadway debut in Minneapolis, Minnesota, before officially opening on Broadway in November of the same year, 1997.
That would be the Julie Taymor directed The Lion King.
Ding, ding, ding. That is absolutely correct. Which then, of course, went on to win 6 Tony Awards, including Best Musical and Best Director of a Musical, making Julie Taymor the very first woman to win this award.
And isn't it also, I think they announced this last year around D23, it is the biggest earning entertainment property ever.
I believe that's correct as a whole when you think of the first movie, the Broadway show, the second movie, all of the things that came in, like the Lion Guard and all that stuff. I think it is the most earningest franchise that's ever happened.
I like that term. The most earningest. Yes.
Thank you.
How about the most lucrative?
There you go. There you go. Because it's still playing on Broadway, yeah?
Yes, it'll probably be playing on Broadway for a good long time.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going anywhere. And I think it still tours as well because it was just in Nashville a couple years ago.
It does indeed.
Yeah.
It does indeed.
And well worth it. It is a wonderful show. Yes.
Yeah. Speaking of things that make you cry, man, the first 5 minutes of The Lion King is the most emotional thing you'll ever see in your entire life.
Well, I mean, the first 5 minutes, any song that Simba is talking about his father or is in communication or with his father.
Yeah.
That show is definitely a tearjerker. Show.
It is fantastic. Well, that concludes This Week in Disney History, JT.
Pencils down.
Pencils down, everybody. Pencils down. Pass your papers forward. We are done for this class.
You are dismissed.
You are dismissed into the news, I guess. I don't know.
Yes.
It's been 5 years. I have no more transitions left in me.
Oh, well, I've got it.
Oh, okay.
From yesterday's news to today's news. Well, actually, this will be 2 weeks from now, so this is also yesterday's news. So this is also 2 weeks ago in Disney history.
Fantastic. Give me Tamor news, please. Oh, we got to stop. JT, I'm not sure why we're doing the news because this will be 2 weeks old by the time the episode drops. So it won't be. News is a real loose term today on this episode. But
Things you may have missed.
Things you may have missed in the past month. So first up, we're gonna talk about. So Bob Iger recently gave. By recently, I mean 2 weeks ago, gave an interview on CNBC in which he had some things to say, some great, some maybe controversial and not so great. And we're going to talk about it all right now. Are you ready?
If it's Bob Iger, my seatbelt is buckled.
You never know. You never know. So, as I said, this was after, or just right after, actually, the announcement that Bob Iger would be staying on as CEO of the Walt Disney Company. CNBC interviewed him on some issues ranging from pricing to attendance in the parks to the SAG-AFTRA strike to the ongoing feud with DeSantis. So here are some bullets from that. When he was asked about some low attendance recently in the parks, he said, quote, Florida opened up early during COVID and they created huge demand and didn't have competition because there were a number of other places and states that were not open yet. There's a lot more competition today. So against 2022, the state of Florida has in fact been down, end quote. I mean, that makes sense, right? I feel like it just makes complete sense of why things are looking a little less down because there's a lot more competition out there now that everything's open.
Yeah, I think he's right on there. I mean, I think everybody, all the pent-up demand, all the people that were like, oh, we want to go, have gone, right? Mm-hmm. So of course, it's not going to be, I think every industry, is experiencing the same thing this year where there was so much pent-up demand in 2022 and 2021.
Right.
And now that demand has been satiated, it's a little bit down, which is normal.
Right. And let's not pretend that the economy is wonderful right now. So there's that as well.
Right. Let's not pretend that we've kept up wages with inflation.
Right. This next piece, I think that you'll have some things to say about because we kind of touched on it on our last episode. So he was asked about some recent concerns over Marvel and Pixar not necessarily faring very well lately. And he said, quote, I think in our zeal to grow our content significantly to serve mostly our streaming offerings, we ended up taxing our people way beyond in terms of their time and their focus, way beyond where they had been. He went on to say Marvel's a great example of that. Not only did they increase their movie output, but they ended up making a number of television series, and frankly, it diluted focus and attention. And I think you're seeing that is more of the cause than anything else. Now, when it comes to Pixar, Iger acknowledged that debuting 3 Pixar films in a row on Disney Plus, quote, created an expectation, end quote, among consumers that Pixar movies would quickly go to streaming. Then he added, quote, I think you'd have to agree that there were some creative misses as well, end quote. Interesting statement there.
Yeah, I think what we can infer from this is that Bob Iger has been listening to Gays Do the Deed. Because you and I have had conversations because we talked about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and we talked about this with Marvel, and we talked about Elemental, and we talked about this with Pixar. So he's clearly been listening to us. So thank you, Bob Iger, for listening to Gays Do the D.
It's true. It's true. A side note, actually, I just read recently that when we had just reviewed Elemental, it was not doing very well financially. In fact, it was like the lowest opening weekend of a Pixar film, we should say, in a while. But now, since then, it has then become the highest grossing since Frozen 2, I believe, of just any Disney movie since Frozen 2, which is outstanding. I love to see it. That's great. So
yes,
an interesting turnaround.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, clearly word of mouth for Elemental was strong.
I think,
for it to keep doing better, after opening weekend. I mean, that's nothing but word of mouth, right? So that's very great to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think he's right on here too. I mean, I would agree with what he says in terms of taxing the both of those creative outlets and the people, and as a result, I think there was some fatigue on the viewer side, and then maybe some creative issues on the studio side.
Yeah, I wonder if at Pixar they're going, sorry, what do you mean by creative misses? That was I don't know. That was a bold statement. So
it was a bold statement.
Yeah.
But he's a bold kind of guy, though.
Sure is. In fact, so coming up next, when he was asked about the current writers and actors strike, Iger offered that the strike would have a, quote, very, very damaging effect on the whole business. He went on to say that, quote, this is the worst time in the world to add to that disruption. He did say that he respects, quote, their right and their desire to be compensated fairly, but also that the unions, again, another quote, have to be realistic about the business environment and what this business can deliver, end quote, and that the strikes would cause huge collateral damage, in his words. He then went on to say, quote, we managed as an industry to negotiate a very good deal with the Directors Guild that reflects the value that the directors contribute to this great business. We wanted to do the same thing with the writers, and we'd like to do the same thing with the actors. There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic, and they are adding to a set of challenges that this business is already facing. That is quite frankly very disruptive, end quote. Ooh, JT, thoughts on that? I see your face, and it's not pleased, I would say.
Now, Bob.
I
mean, I feel this to me was like, ooh, I think he's going to maybe regret saying this. I mean, his whole point with the Directors Guild and being able to come to an agreement with the Directors Guild is kind of missing a big difference between the Directors Guild and what the Writers Guild and the Actors Guild are having issues with, which is specifically, I think, more with the actors than the writers, but both to a certain degree is AI. I think AI is a bigger threat for actors and writers than it is for directors, right? You know, I know that's a big bone of contention with both the writers and the actors, and one of the big reasons that they're on strike. So I think that's a weird comment to come from him, because I feel like he knows better. This is clearly, I mean, this statement, I can guarantee you, was probably, well, I know this was in an interview, but I can guarantee you his comms person, like, they massaged all these answers and potential answers a lot. I mean, like, Swedish massaged these before he went into this interview, because it is so clearly spinning to kind of maybe put the blame a little bit and make it look like actors and writers guilds are being completely unreasonable, when I don't think that's really the case.
I don't either. I 100% agree with you. And I feel like whether or not you agree with everything that they have on the ticket of what they're looking for, to say that it's ill-timed is just like missing the entire point of, like, no, it doesn't. I'm sorry, we're not gonna want to be compensated on your time scale. Like, there's never a great time for anything like this to happen, and to say that they should just hold off until things get better, it's like, no. You don't tell somebody to, just go hungry for a little bit longer, and then, I don't know, it just seems off color to me.
There's a subtle shifting of the blame here, which is kind of hard to take from someone that made $26 million last year. And pushing the blame on people who are literally losing their apartments in LA because they can't pay rent, because A, they don't get paid enough, and B, they're on strike and can't make money because they're trying to fight for their ability to make enough money to live on. So
and we kind of knew this was coming. I mean, we reported, what was it, 2 years ago or so, when Scarlett Johansson came out against the streaming platform and was really upset, and they dropped her and then they picked her back up again. So it's not as though this is out of the blue either. Right. This has been coming for a while. So
do better, Bob.
Do better.
When you know better, you do better.
When you know better, you do better. All right. Well, speaking of doing better, so he cleans it up a little bit here. When asked about the ongoing legal battle with Ron DeSantis, everybody's favorite topic, get your popcorn out now. Bob Iger says, quote, "What we've said publicly is that we are concerned that he has decided to retaliate against the company for a position the company took on pending legislation in that state. And frankly, the company was within its rights, even though I'm not sure it was handled very well." Ooh, that's a dig against Chapek. It was within its rights to speak up on an issue constitutionally protected right to free speech, and to retaliate against the company in a way that would be harmful to the business was not something that we can sit back and tolerate. And so we have filed a lawsuit to protect our First Amendment rights there and to protect our business, end quote. So he's standing firm. He's telling people, like, we're not backing down on this. Here's what I wish about these statements, though, and I think that they're starting to get a little muddy in that I really want them to keep pushing the reason and what they said and what they stood up against. Now they're sort of not hiding behind, but they're pushing the First Amendment piece of it, which is correct, absolutely correct. But let's not forget who is being impacted by this and the grander scale of things. And I feel like they're getting a little afraid of bringing that up too much right now, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. I mean, he's being very careful on all fronts. He's being a little defensive on some fronts and being very careful on others. And I feel like, and the whole extending his stay as CEO until 2026, I feel like I think he probably came in. I don't think when did he come back in as CEO? Has it been a year? When did he come back in?
It's been about a year now.
So I don't think the year has gone exactly as he thought it was going to go. Because I think he's having to clean up a lot of messes. I think some of them are messes that Chapek made. And to be honest with you, I think some are messes that he probably made that just were not messes until after he left. And so I think he's having to clean up a lot of messes. I think he's coming in. It's a very different world than it was in 2019. And they're laying off 7,000 staff. They're not doing well at the box office. They seem to kind of be having issue after issue. If, he's saying park attendance is down, I think he's just being very careful and it's almost like a little bit of like a retreat, right? And just being very cagey about what he says and doesn't say. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I'm glad to see that he is at least acknowledging the topics.
Yes.
But I don't know. I feel like they need a little bit of a better PR spinner here because I don't think their messaging is being heard as well as it could be at this point.
Well, I think some of this is also a lack of having like a comms chief right now because they lost. They lost their comms chief that was sort of Bob Iger's. One of his right hand people for a long time.
Yeah.
And the comms chief they had that was interim is gone, and he probably had no business being a comms chief for Disney anyway. So I think part of this is a lack of someone on that level.
Right. And their chief financial officer recently stepped down as well. So
their chief diversity officer is leaving.
There's a lot of shakeup happening right now.
Yes, and he's also under a lot of pressure to pick a successor because he failed at that last time. Yeah. So he pretty much has to get it right, and I'm sure he's also thinking about his legacy. Of course, and what that's going to be, and so he's being very protective as well. But that does not give you an excuse. Doesn't it give you an excuse to not stand up for people and to stand up for who supports the company with their money? And
that's exactly the point. Yeah.
Yep.
So there you go. More to come. Hopefully, some of this gets cleaned up a little bit. So listen, more to come.
Bob. Bob, you're clearly listening to us. So just give us a call. Slip into our DMs. We'll make some time for you. Come over. Yeah. I'll mix this up, some Manhattans, and we'll talk this out, and we'll work this out, and we'll solve some issues, and we'll get it back on track.
Join us on the 31st for our first ever Happiest Hour on
Come
Zoom.
to the happiest hour on earth, Bob.
That's right. All right, let's move on to our next story, JT.
Yeah, speaking of happy times, and speaking of stories that are irrelevant on this podcast in terms of news, because this is an event that is actually already sold out. So if you have tickets, you'll be really interested to hear about this. And if you don't have tickets, you know what? Go get a drink.
That's
whatever.
Right.
But more Destination D23 details have been announced. This is the fan celebration that happens on the off year when D23 Expo is not happening.
Right.
This is being labeled as the biggest Disney fan event of the year. I think it is every year that the D23 Expo does not happen. This is happening Friday. This is happening Friday, September 8th through Sunday, September 10th at Walt Disney World's Contemporary Resort. If you didn't know, there's also a big convention center attached to the Contemporary Resort, and that's where it's happening. This year's Destination D is a marquee part of the Disney 100 celebration, which feels like we've been celebrating it for 100 years.
Sure have.
And also still feels like we have 100 years to go. It is promising a journey through every era. This is quote, a journey through every era of Disney as we venture back through the last century of storytelling and look forward to a limitless future for the company, end quote. Destination D will feature presentations from Disney archivists, historians, Imagineers, cast members, animators, and assorted other luminaries, including Bill Farmer, who is the voice of Pluto and Goofy, Disney legend Don Hahn. I believe Bill Farmer is a Disney legend as well. Yes. Brett Iwan, how do you say his last name?
Iwan, I believe.
Iwan, who is the voice of Mickey Mouse, Caitlin Robrock, who is the voice of Minnie Mouse, Ashley Eckstein, who is the voice of Ahsoka Tano, Michael James Scott, who is currently playing the genie on Broadway in Aladdin. A little taste of some of these presentations. There will be a Disney Parks Experiences and Products presentation from Chairman Josh Daddy DeMauro about what makes Disney experiences magical around the globe. Who knows? By 2026, that might be CEO Daddy DeMauro. There will also be a conversation with Don Hahn and Archives director Becky Klein about Walt Disney's journey to join his brother Roy in California in the 20s and the early days of the Walt Disney Company, including the Alice comedies, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, and the creation of Mickey Mouse. This sounds really fun. There will be a table read of iconic scenes from 100 years of Disney history with Bill Farmer, Brett Iwan, and Caitlin Robrook.
Love that.
That sounds like it would be really fun.
Yeah.
There will be 100 years of weird Disney moments from the archives.
Are we in that? Is we part of that?
Are we number 99 in that?
That's right.
Interpret weird Disney moments as you will. There will also be an exhibit on the Disney You Didn't Know, where the archives is going to uncover Disney discoveries, connections, and little-known facts about the Disney universe. There will also be a special exhibit celebrating 60 years of Disney's audio animatronics technology. This is presented by the Archives and Imagineering together to celebrate the history of audio animatronics with rare figural assets, photography, and vintage ephemera. I have too been called vintage ephemera in my time, but I will not be at this exhibit.
I've been called a figural asset in my time. So.
Will you be there? Are you part of this exhibit?
I don't have my invitation yet, but I'm waiting.
And Kale has been called an audio animatronic.
This is true. You burnt.
As I mentioned before, for this very relevant news story, tickets are sold out. But some presentations will be live streamed. So even if you were not able to get a ticket, you can still watch some of these presentations on the World Wide Webs. Head to d23.com for more info and Tweedles. If any of you are going to Destination D, please reach out and let us know. We would love to hear about it. Maybe even have, a little guest on the podcast to talk about it. I don't know.
Would love it. You would love it.
Have you been to one of these Destination D events, Patrick?
No, in fact, I went to my first D23 Expo last year, but I haven't been to one of these ones. I know they basically, like, the fans call it sort of like D23 Expo Lite. Like, it's a lot smaller, more truncated. Obviously, it's, less to do and a smaller venue as well. So
I've never been to one. I've always wanted to go, specifically because, you and I have both been to D23 Expo.
Yeah.
I think Destination D is really, it's less about promoting new things coming out, and it's more about really digging into like Disney history and celebrating being a Disney fan even more than D23 Expo is.
I think so too. A lot of people have been speculating like, why aren't they announcing any new stuff? And it's like, well, they never really have at these things. It's not really about that. They may announce like one or two new things or a movie. They'll probably promote the movie Wish when it's, you know, a new trailer for that or something, but it's not really what this one's about. The D23 Expo is, they save everything for that one. So you're right. And I would like to go to this. Don Hahn he's been on the show before. Don Hahn is freaking amazing. He knows everything about Disney. So he would be a draw for me to go see.
I believe I did leave out one presentation that they are going to be celebrating the history of the Walt Disney Animation Studios with a special sneak peek at Wish. So
there you go.
Were right.
I was right.
As you always
time.
are, Patrick. You're always right.
I usually am. Anything jumping out to you of something that you would love to go see?
Honestly, all of this. I mean, you know, I'm a total Disney history nerd, and I would love all of this. I mean, I think the table read of like iconic scenes with the voices would be spectacular. I was at I think I mentioned this on the last episode that I was on, but I got to go to a special fan screening of a Goofy movie here in Nashville, and Bill Farmer and Jason Marsden were there. And as soon as Bill Farmer in the mic went into the Goofy voice, like it was he was talking normally, and then he just shifted into Goofy, and I like levitated out of my seat. It was so unexpected and so spot on, and it was like Goofy was in the room, and it was wild. So I can only imagine what a table read with these people would be like.
Highly recommend things like that. On paper, to a lot of fans, they're like, I'll go see that if I can. I really recommend, if you're going to one of these expos, go to those things, because it's really going to give you that emotional punch. I did the Muppets Christmas Carol one, and it was my favorite thing of the entire event. It was so cool to see the actors of the Muppets there being the Muppets. It was amazing, emotionally amazing.
Totally co-sign that. I mean, just for me, like anytime I've been to like one of these things, just like you said, like the big panels are really fun, but the stuff that you remember and carry with you are the smaller things that really tug. Either it's something nostalgic that you love, or just something that really means a lot to you, and the people that created it are like on stage talking to you. So that's And speaking of Muppets, Patrick, I have never received a better compliment than being associated with Scooter, not Skeeter.
I know, I said Skeeter and I meant Scooter. But you remind me of his sister, though. The little sister's instead of Scooter.
Well,
from the Muppet Babies. You remind me of a Muppet Baby.
That tracks. Patrick.
Yes, JT.
Do you want to be a cat?
I mean, everybody wants to be a cat, apparently.
Everybody wants to be a cat.
Everybody up in her wants to be a cat.
Yes, so we are... If you listen to this podcast, you know that occasionally we do take twos on past Disney films. What was the last take two that we did?
Such a great question. It's been a while. I can't even remember. Well, I mean, we did you and I, the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Yes. Do we call that a take two? That was a take two.
We just called it an episode. I think. I don't remember what we called it.
Well, all that to say, all that's in the past, because we are doing a take two this week on the Aristocats. And Patrick, why are we talking about the Aristocats today?
Who can say? No, I don't know.
Well, I blame our Tweedles.
Yes, I do blame our Not blame. I thank you, Tweedles, for sending us.
Thank you.
But I mean, overwhelmingly, we sent out. We pulsed our Tweedles on Instagram, and overwhelmingly,
we had consent to pulse.
Was the number one answer was the Aristocats. So
shocking.
I was a little shocked about it. I'm not going to lie to you. Okay, well, let's start there. What is your history, I guess, with the Aristocats? Is it sort of in
That's a great place to
your
start.
rotation? Is it something that you watched a lot?
It is not in my rotation. No, and honestly, the Aristocats is one that, like, of course I had seen as a child, and probably, I'm sure, more than once, but it's one of those movies that, like, just is not in the center of my Disney nostalgia. It is so early 1970s Disney, which I don't even think Disney cared about animation in the early 70s. So why should we? But it's not one that's ever been really like at the heart of my Disney fandom. There are things about it that I can appreciate. There are things about it that are truly horrendous that we'll talk about. But to be honest with you, like, we did an episode on the Aristocats on the Disney Buzz maybe like 2-3 years ago. And that had been the first time that I had probably seen the Aristocats since I was a child. And now I watched this again last night just to refresh myself for this episode. And it was the first time that I had seen it since last time I had to watch it. But not really at the heart of my Disney love. What about you? What's your history with the Aristocats?
100% same. Like, in that there's just not a history of the Aristocats with me. I had seen it as a kid. It was on TV a lot. I remember it was one of those movies that Disney kind of just like threw out there every once in a while. Probably because it was just cheap to just put it on TV. And there's low stakes in the Aristocats, so
very low
like
stakes.
Anyone can watch it. There aren't any characters in it that I like latched on to necessarily. Like, it just wasn't anything, and none of the songs are good enough that it would have been in my repertoire of songs either. And so it was just a movie that I knew was out there and had seen. But like you, I think I honestly had not seen it since I was maybe 10 years old. So, and
I think we both have some hot takes today.
We have some hot takes, and you were saying before you started recording, like, sort of, I don't know. Bear with us, Tweedles. We're not necessarily trashing this movie,
no,
but we definitely don't have an Aristocats super fan on your hands here for this recording. Of the
so
episode.
Gird your loins if you are a super fan.
Right, but you were sort of saying, like, we dug into some of the history of it, and the history of the Aristocats actually is quite interesting.
Yes.
And so I think that's worth learning about, and then maybe watching it with those kind of fresh eyes and really understanding how this movie came to be, which I think is actually quite interesting.
But for this discussion, the jazz is hot, and so are the takes. So
it sure is. It sure is.
Should we start with some basics about this movie?
It doesn't really get any higher than basic with this movie, but yes, let's do it.
So our
Tweedles are going to come for us.
Oh my God!
Get ready.
The listener feedback. I don't know who's co-hosting the next episode, but my God,
we're not making it another 5 years after this one. Apparently,
let's dig into it. This is the 20th animated feature film from Walt Disney Animation Studios. This premiered on December 11th, 1970, just kicking off the decade with a bang. And it was released on December 24th, 1970. Disney really said, "Happy holidays. Here's some cats for you."
What a weird holiday release. There is nothing about the holidays in this.
Let me just say, Disney has never done great with holiday releases because
that's fair.
They released Hocus Pocus in July, and now they're releasing Haunted Mansion in July. So you know what?
Also
they don't know how to do a holiday release. I'm just going to say that. That's the first little hot take. So let's dig into some of this fascinating history about this movie. Patrick, do you want to talk a little bit about the history of this?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, maybe before we do that, let's continue with some context behind the cinematic history of it before that. So as we said, this was released in 1970. Now, this, for many of our Tweedles know this, but this was basically the golden era of live action Disney movies. And when I say golden era, they were pushing out like 3 or 4 at least live action movies every single year in the 60s and the 70s. So they were running out of content at this point, I feel like, as well. Like, there's everything from Flubber, the Shaggy Dog, the Parent Trap, Mary Poppins, the Man Who Was a Computer or something, whatever it was. Like, any story that anyone had an idea for, Disney was going to produce it.
Well, and I think it's also interesting to note here too, like the dearth of live action movies and the fact that a lot of them weren't really that good, and animation was kind of on the back burner. If we think about what time period this is, like early 70s and the late 60s, they were the company was fully focused, like resources on opening Walt Disney World, getting it built and opened.
Very that. And they just wanted that coin. And so they were pumping out everything that they could. And animation is very expensive to do. And so they weren't doing a lot of animation in this time. In fact, the most recent animated film before the Aristocats came out was 3 years prior to that with The Jungle Book, which was in 1967. And before even that was way back in 1963 with Sword in the Stone. So they were not doing a lot of animation. No. Gone were the days of doing, Cinderella and then Peter Pan and then Alice in Wonderland, like all of those movies. It had been a while since then. This was definitely not the golden age of animation for Disney.
I think, and in fact, I think most people today would look at The Jungle Book as like the end of a specific era.
Sure.
Of great Disney animation, and I think some people would even argue that the classics, and I think some people would even argue that maybe The Sword in the Stone isn't exactly on the same level, but it's included in there because of the time period, right?
How dare you with The Sword in the Stone? It's one of my favorites.
Listen, you didn't hear it from me.
Yeah, fair. And then also for some context, financially, as you were talking about, with they were opening Walt Disney World, they were also working heavily on bed knobs and broomsticks, which they thought at the time was going to be like the next Mary Poppins. And so they were investing a lot of their resources, a lot of their talent into that movie specifically. So again, animation just was not getting a ton of attention at the time.
Correct. So let's talk a little bit about the history behind this movie. So it actually begins back in the golden era of Disney animation because in 1961, Walt Disney had suggested a 2-part live action series that would feature animals for his Wonderful World of Color television show, which was like a smash hit television show. Families would tune in every Sunday night for this. Some gentlemen by the name of Harry Tittle, I'm going to say Tittle because I like that better. Yes. And Tom McGowan and Tom Rowe began working on a script that featured a family of cats in an upscale New York apartment. After the success of 101 Dalmatians, which heavily featured London, they decided to move the location of this story they were working on to Paris to add a little bit more of a romantic element to the script. So far, so good.
Yep.
They sent
How can you go wrong?
I mean, you can't go wrong. Cats in Paris, you can't go wrong. They sent the story treatment to Walt Disney in 1962, and it was rejected by the company. Walt said, "Get out of here with this cat script." So these 3 gentlemen almost decided to sell this script to another company, but then they learned that Walt Disney himself was staying at a nearby hotel. This is fascinating. So they left the script in an envelope at the hotel for Walt Disney. Disney loved the idea when he saw the script. He greenlit the project as a live action film.
Yeah, so up until now, this is all still a live action proposal. This was not ever meant to be an animated movie.
Real cats in Paris. Over the next 2 years and through several rewrites, the script was just not working as a live action movie, as I think any one of us could have maybe predicted.
Strange.
I don't understand what the problem was. So they pivoted to an animated project, to turning this into an animated project. Walt Disney approved of the new vision and suggested that they follow the formula for 101 Dalmatians. And boy, howdy, did they follow that formula.
Oh, my goodness.
Because this is basically hot take number 1, 101 Dalmatians with cats.
And
racism. And And they decided to also have the cats talk amongst themselves when they were just with themselves, but never in front of humans. However, they had to stop production for the next few years because the company was focusing on completing The Jungle Book. Finally, the movie was taken off the shelf Should it have been? And once again, approved by Disney for production. It would be this is actually really significant. It was the last film with Walt Disney's production approval on it before his death in 1966. It was also the final film that his brother Roy Disney worked on before his death in December. I believe it was December of 1971, just a couple months after he opened Walt Disney World.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. I mean, like Walt Disney was pretty heavily invested in this movie, and he never got to see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting for a movie like this to have had such a long road to the theater. Lots of stops and starts where you would think like maybe this is just not supposed to be.
Which is the case for a lot of Disney movies, but this one especially has had a long time ahead of it because, again, like we've been saying, they were not really. All their eggs were not in the animation bucket at this time. They were definitely into live action in the parks at this point. So the resources were not available to do animation.
Do we need to give just a very brief plot summary of the Aristocats? I'm going on the assumption that pretty much everybody has seen the Aristocats, but just in case you haven't, and spoiler alert for this 1970 movie,
you've had some time.
But Patrick, do you want me to give just a very brief summary?
Well, should we try to do it off the top of our heads? That could be kind of fun.
So, that could be. Oh, let's do that.
Right.
So this takes place in 1910 Paris, which is usually called the Belle Epoque. It's the same time period that it's the time period you think of when you think of French Impressionist art and Toulouse-Lautrec, which there's a character named after him in this movie, and just beautiful women in strolling through the park in carriages, and the movie Gigi. It's like that time period,
drinking wine on the streets, having a cigarette, and all of that. When you think of the
Moulin
Rouge.
This is Moulin Rouge, Paris.
Yes, very that.
Yeah,
and then so we have an heiress. Basically, was she an opera singer or something? I can't remember why she has so much money.
Yeah, I don't even know. She was an opera diva, Madame Adelaide Bonfamille.
There we go. Who's a cat lover who has decided cat lady who has decided to bequeath all of her will, basically all her entire estate and the money to her cats. And after the cats pass away, they would go to her butler, basically Edgar, who at this point in the movie you think is a good guy. He seems very loving to the cats and very loving to her.
Yes.
He overhears this conversation with her lawyer and basically flips around and goes, well, I got to get rid of the cats because I want that money.
Yes.
So it then becomes sort of a misadventure of him trying to get rid of the cats and then trying to make their way back to her house after he kidnaps them and throws them away, basically.
Yes, he dopes them with sleeping pills.
Yes.
Drives them on a motorcycle out into the countryside. He is ambushed by, inexplicably, 2 hounds from the American South. Named Napoleon and Lafayette. And I don't know where these dogs came from because everyone in this movie is clearly from Europe except for these 2 hounds. It is simultaneously mind-boggling and hilarious.
It's bizarre.
It is so bizarre.
Robin Hood, though. It's
very very Robin Hood. Yes. So in addition to these hounds, ambushing him, it causes the cats to be left stranded in the countryside. And meanwhile, back in Paris, Madame Bonfamille, Roquefort the mouse, and Frou Frou the horse discover their absence. In the next day, Duchess, the mother cat to the 3 kittens, meets an alley cat named Thomas O'Malley. Right?
Clever.
Who offers to take her and her kittens back to Paris. There's all kinds of adventures. They hitchhike on a milk truck. They meet 2 geese who, Patrick, I've decided if any one of our Tweedles is curious about what it's like for Patrick and I to be sauntering through a Disney theme park, it is very Amelia and Abigail Gabble, the 2 geese from this movie. I just sat watching this and I was like, oh, this is me and Patrick in the parks.
Yeah, in Epcot specifically.
In Epcot specifically, after we have made it to 3 countries, maybe just one, maybe just Mexico.
Who can say?
Who can say? And just down to the banter and the whispering and just the flirting and everything with people and just everything. Yes. And so the geese actually are the ones that lead the cats back to the outskirts of Paris. And then they depart to deal with their drunk Uncle Waldo, who is probably either Kale or Ryan in this scenario. Yes. Edgar goes back to the countryside to get the cats. Meanwhile, Thomas O'Malley's friend Scat Cat comes across them. They go back to Scat Cat's pied-à-terre, where he's got like a jazz band, and they sing a song, and eventually
things get racist.
Things get racist. I think it's safe to assume that Thomas O'Malley and the Duchess get it on the rooftop. Probably. And then, of course, this is a Disney movie, so there is a happy ending, and O'Malley, everybody defeats Edgar, and O'Malley ends up living with Duchess and the kittens at Madame Bonfamille's, and everyone is happy except for perhaps Edgar.
Save for Edgar,
and Uncle Waldo. It's probably iffy.
He's happy. He's very
well. That's
he's
true.
Unaware.
That's true.
So it's very 101 Dalmatians and
but cats.
and Homeward Bound in The Incredible Journey, right? It's like those two movies in one movie.
Yes,
only with cats.
It's 101 Dalmatians on an incredible Homeward Bound journey with cats.
There it is. That was the working title.
Yes, it was. That was the 1962 title.
That's right.
Where Disney said absolutely not.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. So there's a synopsis. A lot of people. It's not a unique or clever story necessarily. But it serves fine as a movie.
And I will say, I mean, like we said, we're not going to trash this movie for the next 45 minutes, because I do think there are some really charming parts and elements to this movie. For sure. And yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's get into. Do you want to get into some of this crew, the crew that worked on this film?
Yeah, let's talk about the crew and the cast a little bit, and then we'll just get into our thoughts about the movie.
Perfect.
What do you say about
that?
Patrick,
okay. Tell us about some of this crew. Some of these people.
So interestingly, the crew that they did get, knowing that they had a lot of people working on many other things at the time, it's a pretty all-star cast for Disney in Disney history. In that the director, we have, I mean, basically everyone is one of the 9 old men or is a Disney legend at this point.
Yes.
So we have director Wolfgang Reitherman, who is one of the 9 old men. Reitherman also directed 101 Dalmatians, Sword in the Stone, The Jungle Book, Robin Hood, Rescuers, etc. It's absolutely a Wolfgang Reitherman movie.
Absolutely, 100%.
It's got his markings all over it, which is not a bad thing. I mean, he's a very, very classic Disney director, but a lot of his movies are very similar to each other in a great way. And this doesn't disappoint in it being a Reitherman movie. I think it was just more content than it was direction that I had the problem with, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
With the movie. Producing the movie was, again, Reitherman, and then Winston Hibler, who was one of the narrators for True Life Adventures. Also, he was a screenwriter on Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, Sleeping Beauty. So already, again, we have Disney history working on this movie. It's the A. Yeah, it's just anybody who was alive and was an animator at the time worked on this film.
A-Team, but I think it's the A-Team, coming to the end of their journey.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. In fact, 5 of the 9 old men were also like additional animators on this movie. So everybody was working on this movie. We do have some songs, a couple of them by the Sherman Brothers, the title song, the Aristocats, and then a song called Scales and Arpeggios, which are both very cute songs. Terry Gilkyson then wrote the song Thomas O'Malley Cat, who also incidentally wrote the Bare Necessities for The Jungle Book. And then we have, so a lot of people actually contributed songs to this movie. So then we also have Floyd Huddleston and Al Rinker, who wrote the bigger song in the movie that most people know, that being Everybody Wants to Be a Cat. Thoughts on the songs before we go on to other people? Yeah,
I mean, it's not a great Disney score. It's not going to be one of the all-time great scores. No. I think the songs are serviceable and cute, and at the same time, even Everybody Wants to Be a Cat, I think, is a little forgettable.
It's probably the one that most people know. I would argue actually that the song Aristocats is just really quite lovely. It's just not one that made it big. So what are you going to do? We then have a score by George Bruns, who did the score for Sleeping Beauty, Jungle Book, Sword in the Stone, and many, many live action movies for Disney. And then we have editor Tom Acosta, who also edited The Jungle Book, Robin Hood, and The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
Also all Willie Reitherman movies.
There you go. Yes, absolutely. So it's just everybody who Disney loved and trusted was working on this movie at the same time.
Now, speaking of All-Star Cruise, this also is an all-star cast. And dear reader, I want you to listen carefully and closely because there's going to be a running theme through this cast.
See if you can
spot it. So we have Phil Harris, who played J. Thomas O'Malley Cat. Phil Harris is no stranger to Disney animation. He also voiced Baloo in The Jungle Book 3 years prior, and he would voice Little John 3 years hence. And interestingly enough, Terry Gilkison, who wrote Thomas O'Malley Cat that Phil Harris sang, Phil Harris also sang his song The Bare Necessities.
That's right.
We have Ava Gabor, one of the Gabor sisters, who voices Duchess. Ava Gabor is also the voice of Miss Bianca in The Rescuers and The Rescuers Down Under. Ava Gabor also co-starred in a very popular 1960s sitcom called Green Acres. Keep that in your head.
She was actually cast because of her role in Green Acres, I believe, because at the time when they were writing it, they kind of had her voice in mind as like one of the most feminine voices of its time. So that's why they cast Ava Gabor.
Moving along, and we're doing all the animals first. So we have Gary Dubin, who played Toulouse, who is one of Duchess's kittens. Toulouse is, of course, named after the famous French painter Toulouse-Lautrec. Gary Dubin did lots of 1970s TV, including a Green Acres episode or two.
Interesting.
Yes. We also have Liz English, who voiced Marie, who is, of course, named after Marie Antoinette. Liz English also had an uncredited role in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and that is about the extent of her credits outside of this movie. I want to talk about Marie when we get into our thoughts about the movie, because one thing I have never fully understood is the fascination in the Disney fandom with Marie, but we'll get there.
We're there together.
Yeah, great. I knew we would be in the same car with that. Okay. Moving along, we have Dean Clark, who voiced Berlioz, who is the third of the Duchess's kittens. Berlioz is named after the French composer Hector Berlioz, and outside of a video game that I had never heard of, that oddly enough, Liz English also lent her voice to, this is his only credit.
Interesting.
Yes. So from little known to well known, we have Sterling Holloway, who voiced Roquefort the Mouse, and you definitely know his voice. Sterling Holloway is no stranger to Disney fans. Three of his most popular voice performances were as the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland, as Winnie the Pooh in The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, and as Kaa in The Jungle Book. What an amazing voice actor.
So wonderful. So unique.
And even though he has the same kind of voice, and it's him in every character, they're all distinct characters.
Very much so, yeah. He's a wonderful voice artist.
Truly, truly wonderful. We also have Scatman Crothers, who voiced Scat Cat in this movie. Scatman Crothers has many, many credits to his name, but probably his other most popular movie credit outside of this is that he played Dick Halloran in Stanley Kubrick's adaptation of The Shining.
Yeah, he's really wonderful. And a quick fun fact before you go on.
Yeah.
So this character was actually it was actually written for Louis Armstrong at the time. So all the way through, he was cast, he was hired on to do the role, and then he became very ill right before they actually started laying down tracks. And so he just couldn't do it. He had to drop out of the movie, and so they quickly scurried. And luckily got Scatman Crothers to do it because he does a great job, and his voice is impeccable. But they did ask him to specifically do a Louis Armstrong impression because they even animated the character character after Louis Armstrong.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell like when you're when you're watching it. If you are listening and you were like, oh, I want to watch Aristocats again, pay attention because you can definitely see that this is a Louis Armstrong character.
Very much
right.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We have hit the portion of the evening where we need to take a pause and take a moment because the next actor is Paul Winchell. I'm sure Paul Winchell was a nice person in real life, but he really made a mistake here because he voices Shun Gon. Let's just stop here and talk about this before we move on, because this is the really. This movie would just, be innocuous, right? It's not going to be the greatest Disney animated movie you ever see, but it's pretty innocuous fun up until you get to this scene, right? And this is a really problematically portrayed Asian character, Cat.
Yes.
That has just some really horrible racist tropes put on it in both the animation and in the voice performance.
Right. Think Breakfast at Tiffany's level of
think Mickey Rooney and Breakfast at Tiffany's. Yeah.
Very problematic. Very, very problematic.
Incredibly
it's not
so.
Cool.
And to Disney's credit, they when you put this on Disney Plus, because it's streaming on Disney Plus, there is a disclaimer before this movie starts, and it stays on for a little while so you can read it fully. Explaining that this content was not okay then, it's not okay now, and just letting you know that this is this is what you're going to see. So kudos to them for putting that disclaimer and letting it sit there for a minute for people to read instead of just like rushing past it.
They've also removed the character and his verses from the song. If you look it up on soundtrack on Apple Podcasts, they removed it there, but it is still in the movie itself. I think that's just what they do is they show the full thing. He's
in the scene like with other people.
It's really bad.
It's
he
really
puts
really
a
bad.
symbol on his head to depict a really racist version of a hat of a quote unquote Chinese hat. It's really terrible. So to Disney's discredit, they were following a trend that was happening during this time where that was happening a lot in which white men or women would play Asian characters to a really offensive degree. So absolutely not okay, and it's so unfortunate that it happens in this movie because it leaves a bad taste in your mouth for the entire movie because they did it. Disney did this.
Yeah, it really
unapologetically did it.
It really sours it really does sour the rest of the movie. It's hard to come back from that because you just keep thinking about it and just it seems so. It just seems so outlandish and wild that they even did it, and because it's so unnecessary. Like, yes, there's different nationalities of cats in this jazz band, but it was so unnecessary to do that because you know what? They didn't feel the need to do it this way with the Russian cat or or a French cat. It's like, why do you have to do it with this cat?
And it's not the first time Disney has done something like this, or the last time Disney has done that.
Right.
So we have to call it out when we see it because Disney is not without its faults, and they are pretty horrific faults.
And it's such a shame because the scene without that is actually quite fun and charming.
On its surface, it is. You're seeing a story about a cat who is living in a space with all of these different cultures. It's adorable in that kind of a storytelling setting. But then they couldn't help themselves but make this very trendy joke that was happening at the time, and it really it taints the whole thing really for me. It's just the lowest hanging fruit kind of a joke, and it's a bummer that they used it. It's not clever in any way.
Yeah, and let's just move on from it.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so moving on, we have Vito Scotti, who portrayed Peppo in Scat Cat's Gang. Vito Scotti also made appearances in a lot of 70s Disney live action movies, including a couple of the Herbie movies like Herbie Rides Again and Herbie Goes Bananas.
Yes.
And the Boatniks, which I have to say, and I think the Boatniks either came out this same year or the year after it. If you have not seen the Boatniks, it is absolutely unhinged, and I encourage you to go and watch it.
Yeah.
It is wild. It just is. It is one of the most perfect examples of the kind of out there, outlandish, wild comedies that Disney was releasing in this time period. Just insane.
For sure.
Anyway, moving along.
We have a lot to get through.
We have a lot to get through with. This is it has to be like one of the biggest casts for a Disney animated movie, specifically like big name voice actors, at least in the Disney universe. So moving on, speaking of big Disney names, we have Thurl Ravenscroft. You definitely, if you don't know this name, you know this voice. So Thurl Ravenscroft does the voice of Billy Bass, who is the Russian cat in Scat Cat's band. You know Thurl Ravenscroft if you have heard the song You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, because he is singing that song. If you have ever seen a Frosted Flakes commercial or heard a Frosted Flakes commercial, you've heard Thurl Ravenscroft because he is Tony the Tiger. If you have ever been to the Enchanted Tiki Room at Disneyland or Walt Disney World, you know Thurl Ravenscroft because he is the voice of Fritz. If you have ever ridden the Haunted Mansion, you have heard him because he is the lead singer bust in the graveyard. He is a actual crowned Disney legend and rightfully so. His voice is truly like unforgettable, legendary. We also have Nancy Culp, who voices Frou Frou the horse. Nancy Culp is most known for playing the Secretary Miss Hathaway on the Beverly Hillbillies, but she also played Miss Grunecker in the 1961 The Parent Trap. If you don't know that name, she was the right-hand lady to Miss Inch at Camp Inch. We also have Pat Buttram, who played Napoleon, one of the basset hounds of the American South. And guess what? Show in the 1960s, Patrick, he guest starred on, I'll give you one guess.
Is it Blue Acres? No, it's Green Acres.
Green Acres. That's right. We also have George Lindsay, who played Lafayette, the other American Southern basset hound. He was also a character on the Andy Griffith Show. We have Hermione Badley as Madame Bonfamille. You would have seen Hermione Badley in the flesh as the maids in both Mary Poppins and The Happiest Millionaire. Two just banger Disney movies from the 60s. We also have Charles Lane, who played Madame Bonfamille's lawyer, Georges Haucourt. When I was looking him up, his filmography is truly astounding. More than 250 films and hundreds of television shows over the course of his career.
And we're going to name them
all. Buckle in. No. But he did have performances in a couple of Disney live action movies, The Gnome-Mobile and The Ugly Dachshund. And Patrick, he appeared in a very popular 1960s TV sitcom.
You don't say.
Yeah, called Green Acres.
What?
Yes. Another Green Acres connection to the Aristocats. It was Old Home Week in the recording studio. We also have Roddy Maud Roxby as Edgar Baltazar. And unfortunately, I could not find any other information about Roddy Maud Roxby. This may have been his moment in the sun.
He's in Timbuktu now.
Yeah. And we have mine and Patrick's doppelgangers, Monica Evans and Carol Shelley, who played Abigail and Amelia Gabble, respectively. Monica Evans, you have heard as the voice of Maid Marian in a GDTD favorite, Robin Hood. You also heard Carol Shelley as Lady Cluck in Robin Hood. And as I never know how do you pronounce this? Is it Lachesis? Lachesis?
Sure.
One of the fates.
Lachesis, maybe?
Okay,
I think
great.
Is maybe what it is.
Yeah. Love, perfect. She plays one of the fates in 1997's Hercules, and and I believe she also did it in the Hercules animated series. Carol Shelley also originated the role of Madame Morrible in Wicked on Broadway. Right. And funnily enough, and I think this is why these two ladies got cast in these roles in the film, they originated the Pigeon Sisters in The Odd Couple on Broadway.
That's right.
Yeah.
And in the movie and
Yes.
on the TV show as well. They were the Pigeon Sisters.
I mean, they are
Legends.
a true comic duo, just like you and I are, Patrick.
Yes.
And last but not least, we have Bill Thompson as Uncle Waldo. This was his final film role, but Uncle Waldo, you've heard his voice too, because he was the White Rabbit and the Dodo in Alice in Wonderland. He was King Hubert in Sleeping Beauty. He was Mr. Smee and Peter Pan, among many other roles.
Yeah,
for Disney.
classic
Classic Disney actor. Yeah.
It's a
really an
huge
all-star
cast.
cast, an all-star cast, and a very heavy Green Acres. I mean, I don't know if they couldn't have filmed Green Acres the week they were recording this, because the cast was in the recording studio.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I feel like this is a good segue then into our thoughts on the film in like what works or doesn't work, in that the cast did a great job. I mean, every character was a fleshed out character.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't like necessarily written the best, but everyone had a distinctive voice, a distinct character, a distinct job. You were never really confused about who was doing what. It was, a stellar cast, a stellar performances. On the flip side of that, though, they just didn't have great material to work with. Like, it wasn't really that funny.
No.
It wasn't really that adventurous. It's a very low stakes movie, like I said in the beginning, in that I almost felt like this actually could have just been a TV series or something smaller than a Christmas released Disney movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I mean, the cast did the best job they could with what they had. And there are some really charming vocal performances. I think the issue is that everything in this movie had already been done before. These are recycled ideas. Into different, it's animals in the countryside trying to get back to the city. It's animals being kid. I mean, these are all ideas that Disney has done before. I think there's even the animation style had been used a couple times already in Sword in the Stone and the Jungle Book, this very like line forward animation where you really can see the lines of the drawings.
It's very sketchbook.
It's very sketchbook. It just seems like it just feels like you can feel that the Disney animation department is kind of like at the end of their creative rope a little bit and needs like a refresh and a reboot, right?
Yeah. It was right before things started like really smoothing out in animation, where they were definitely like, you knew you were watching animation at this time.
Yes,
you could almost like see the flip book.
Well, I was going to bring that up because one thing that I don't think I noticed as much as I noticed this most recent watch last night was there are specific scenes. The place where I really noticed it was the scenes with Madame Bonfamille and her lawyer, where it literally I'm like, am I going blind? Is my TV shaking? Am I in an earthquake? Because like the drawings are literally like vibrating on the screen.
It felt like stop motion almost.
Yeah. You can see it's almost like shaking, right? I was like, am I having a stroke? But yeah, it's very much this is definitely like, we want you to see the drawings, we want you to see the work involved. And
there's something lovely about it, there's something romantic about it, absolutely. I mean, like, you cannot compare it to today's animation. Obviously it's a very different style, but it was, I will give them, it was actually quite beautiful.
It's gorgeous. I think it's gorgeous. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
I think it goes well with, it very much is in conversation with the time period and what you think of when you think of Parisian art and like paintings on a sidewalk that you can, a sidewalk artist. Like it's feels very much that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, what else? What are some of the things that did work or did not work for you in the movie?
I think some of the things that worked beyond the animation, I just think the atmosphere, especially in the beginning, really works for me. I think it really sets up that time period in Paris well. It makes Paris look really beautiful. Like I wanted to go to Paris in 1910. Even the rain at night was very atmospheric. That works for me. As mind-boggling as it is, it's really hard not to get a hoot out of the Basset Hounds and just their chemistry together. It's really hard not to enjoy that. I think what doesn't work for me is, obviously we've talked about the racist part. Which clearly doesn't work for me. No. I think just the story gets very episodic by nature. And it kind of feels like just going through the motions a little bit. I kind of got to a point last night where I was like, okay. And there was still 30 minutes left to go in the movie. And I was like, what else could we possibly have to do here? You know, I think that's the main, it's just, there's just not a lot of there.
That's that's exactly what I would say too. I actually, in fact, didn't, and this is sort of the conversation we're having about the character Marie and everyone's obsession with Marie. I didn't really care about the main characters.
Yeah, can we talk about
family? That? I actually really fell in love with all of the small, like Sterling Holloway's Roquefort, the mouse, was such a great character. I wanted more of Roquefort. I wanted more of
the Gabble sisters. The Gabble sisters are the stars of the show to me. That is like that. Those are the queens of the show to me. Like, give me an hour and 20-minute movie about those Gabble sisters, and I will watch it.
Bring them back
so hard.
Yeah, but when it comes to the main characters, the main cat family, Thomas O'Malley, Duchess, Toulouse, Marie, and what's the other boy's name?
Berlioz.
Just meh. There just wasn't really enough.
Yeah, there's just
there for me.
Yeah,
I didn't care about them as characters, as main characters holding up a Christmas release Disney movie. I just didn't care about them.
Yeah, it's just there's nothing really. They don't really have a backstory, right? You never really learn how the Duchess came. You don't really know anything about her backstory. It's like, has she just been there since she was a kitten?
Right. Something. Yeah.
You know, it's they're very thinly drawn. And they never really get better. Whereas I think that like you were saying, the supporting cast is much more fleshed out.
Yeah. And even the villain is not really a villain. Like when you think of this same movie, it kind of felt like a lift and land of 101 Dalmatians, but 101 Dalmatians at least had Cruella, like this iconic villain, and in I can't remember his name. The name of the
Edgar.
Edgar, exactly. Like he almost wasn't in the movie very much.
You know what I think the issue
really
was? I think the issue is they tried to take Jasper, a Jasper type character from who's really a sidekick to Cruella, and works in that capacity, and try to turn that into the central villain, and it just doesn't work. Yeah.
It didn't work. Like, you either have to have a villain or no villain.
Or a villain or no villain.
Like, if you're going to do it, make him a villain.
Yeah.
If you're not going to have a villain, it frankly didn't really need a villain. It could have just been a story about cats getting lost or
also,
making their way home.
We are pretty convinced that the lawyer and Madame Bonfamille used to like get it on a regular basis, right?
Sure, but he may not remember it anymore.
Right.
Because,
yeah. She's very, I do enjoy, even though her character is very thinly drawn, I do enjoy her character. She's very much feels like this Parisian, like opera diva late in life, very like, just very glamorous, and, lives probably like the quintessential Parisian life, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Again, though, there just wasn't enough of a character there to like latch onto, which I think is why, I mean, we're kind of jumping ahead here of like, why this isn't necessarily going to be a movie going forward either in my memory of a Disney movie I'll watch over and over again, or one that I'll like just put on in the background. There's just nothing, there's not enough there to make it something that's memorable, which is, frankly, why they don't really celebrate this movie much in the parks either. It's not something that you get a lot of merch for. There's not a lot of character meet and greet. Save for Marie is around every once in a while.
And there's a lot of Marie merch. What do you think it is about Marie that people have latched onto?
I frankly don't know. I'm sure there's a story there somewhere. I think strangely in Tokyo Disneyland and in Disneyland Paris, she's a bigger character there.
It makes sense in Disneyland Paris,
for sure. But I don't know what it is about Marie.
She's kind of a brat.
Well, in sort of like she's a little bit of a badass in that she is told by her mother like to be a lady all the time, but she like just wants to be one of the other
That's
siblings.
true,
She doesn't really care necessarily. But then she also turns around and does have like very princessy moments as well. So it's not, I don't know. Not a character that worked for me necessarily.
Yeah, I've never fully understood. If we have any Tweedles that are like big Marie fans,
sure
I would love for people to tell us like what is it about Marie that like you connect with.
Think in general, like Tweedles out there, we listen to you. And
I want to know. I really want to know.
What is it about the movie? Also,
that too.
Because it clearly resonates with a lot of people, and fair enough. I didn't dislike the movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not.
I just don't. I don't love it. It's just there. Like it's not one I'm gonna. It's never one I'm gonna like turn to proactively.
Very that
on purpose.
Very that. So yeah, Tweedles, let us know we really and truly want to know what is it about this movie that made you overwhelmingly vote for us to review it.
This movie, like we were saying earlier, there's a lot of interesting things behind the scenes about this movie, which I think we both would agree are arguably more interesting than what's on the screen. And there are quite a few fun facts about this.
Absolutely.
Like the Sherman Brothers, of course, wrote a couple of the songs. They actually ended up writing more songs that didn't get used from the movie that we'll talk about, but they actually, so Maurice Chevalier, if you've seen the movie, you know that he sings the title song over the credits. Maurice Chevalier was this very famous French singer who became an American movie star in operetta movies in the 1930s. And was also in the movie Gigi in the 50s, and they actually talked him out of retirement to sing this title song, and it was the last thing he did before his death 2 years later.
This movie killed a lot of people.
It really did. Oh my God.
Walt Disney, Roy Disney,
and and killed our spirits a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. No, I didn't really. So I don't know. And I think he does a wonderful job. I think part of the reason that the title song is so charming, like you were mentioning earlier, is because of his performance, right?
His performance, yeah. And it's, frankly, a Sherman Brothers song.
And it is, yeah. And it's not, it's not my favorite Sherman Brothers song, but it's definitely not my least favorite Sherman Brothers song.
No.
Also, we already talked about how Louis Armstrong was originally supposed to be Scat Cat. Well, Thomas O'Malley was originally supposed to be drawn with stripes, like a tabby cat.
Yes.
The director, Wolfgang Reitherman, learned during their production of The Jungle Book when they were animating Shere Khan, who had stripes, that animating stripes is hard. It's hard.
It's a lot to keep track of when you're,
I keep taking the test. I'm like, this is hard. It's a little Will and Grace reference for you. And very time consuming and expensive. So they abandoned that idea, which kind of makes sense because I feel like this movie was probably done as cheaply as possible, right? This was also in the era of Xeroxed animation, where they were literally lifting. They were using like Xerox technology instead of hand drawing every cell, and they were also literally lifting entire drawn sequences out of one movie and placing them in another movie, and just like doing a character overlay.
They did it all the time.
You can actually see I think there's videos where you can actually see the comparisons between the two, and it's wild how they just lifted from one to the other. Some other things that were supposed to happen that didn't happen in this movie were some songs that got cut. I think it's always interesting to hear about songs that get left on the cutting room floor. One of the deleted songs is called Pourquoi, that was to be sung by Madame Bonfamille. And I wonder and Patrick, we were talking about how these characters are thinly drawn, pun intended, and not really fully fleshed out. I wonder if the songs that some of them were originally supposed to sing were going to flesh out their characters a little bit more. Like Madame Bonfamille has this song called Pourquoi. There was supposed to be a song for the Duchess called She Never Felt Alone. I wonder if those would have been more...
the character development.
It would have been there a little bit more character development, because if it's a musical, that's where a lot of the character development comes in, is the songs they sing, right?
Fair. Yeah. Could be. We'll never know.
Yeah. The Sherman Brothers also wrote a song called Le Jazz Hot, not the same one that's in Victor Victoria. But it was replaced by Everybody Wants to Be a Cat.
That's right. That's
Now,
right.
Patrick, can you imagine that they actually thought about doing a sequel to the Aristocats?
Not only can I imagine that, JT, but they're also thinking about redoing the Aristocats.
So there was. Do you remember Disney Toon Studios that used to do all the direct-to-video sequels? And I believe Disney Toon also did the Planes movie. So Disney Toon Studios is going to do a sequel to this. It was announced in 2005. It was going to center around Marie. And it was canceled. Also canceled was a proposed television series that would have featured Marie, Toulouse, and Berlioz as anthropomorphic cat teenagers.
I don't like it.
I don't like it. Thanks, I hate it. And then, yes, and then you mentioned they have announced a live action adaptation of this, which I guess they're live action at adapting all the other ones. They may as well do this one too. The only thing that's kind of interesting to me about this is that Questlove was announced as the director in March of this year.
Yeah.
Now that is actually interesting to me. Obviously, Questlove is going to fix anything that's racist in this.
Fair.
But I mean,
hopefully Disney will as well. But.
Right. Well, yes. Hopefully they would do that without Questlove. But that actually does interest me a little bit. Now, I will say, like, every time I get even remotely interested in one of these live action adaptations, I get my heart broken. But except for 2 or 3. But again, with the way the Disney studios have been going, and the cuts that Bob Iger has talked about making, I wouldn't be surprised if this maybe gets put on the back burner. This doesn't seem like it would be a priority project.
There's not a lot of buzz around it, so we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. It's all kind of rumors a little bit right now. I don't know if anything's like set in stone with contracts.
And I have one last fun fact for you, Patrick.
Yes.
Do you remember when I gave you your nickname at the beginning of this episode of why men great till they got to be great? So to me, I feel like my personal lasting legacy for the Aristocats is Tweedles. If you have never seen, there is a video on the interwebs. If you just Google Lizzo, as in Melissa Lizzo Jefferson, and Aristocats, you will be blessed beyond measure. They have taken the scales and arpeggios sequence from the Aristocats and laid over Lizzo's song "Truth Hurts," and it works shockingly well.
It's really delightful, actually.
It was one of the bright spots of the pandemic, because I think it came out during when COVID was like at its height in 2020.
I believe so.
And this was one of the highlights of like quarantine for me. This like probably got me through like multiple weeks of quarantine, just watching this video. If you've never seen it,
super funny.
Please Google Lizzo and Aristocats and just be blessed. Be blessed.
Be blessed.
And Lizzo blessed it. Like she did comment on it and loves it. So
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. All right. So it sounds like we're kind of on the same page.
I
with this
think
movie. There's a lot of interesting facts and some history, which is really lovely. And the time that it was made and why it was made, it's all relevant to Disney history for sure. It's just for us too. Not necessarily relevant for our
mileage may vary.
love for Disney. Yeah, it's not why we love Disney, this movie.
But we would love to know if it's why you love Disney.
A lot of people really like it. So really and truly let us know. So I guess let's get into the scales of it all. Speaking of scales and arpeggios, overall rating 1 to 5 for you.
Okay. I'm going to give it a 2.5. And the 0.5 is the extra 0.5 is just for the great voice cast, because it is a truly great voice cast.
I think I'm just gonna go ahead and give it a 2.
Okay,
I'm not even gonna put up the 2.5.
That's fair.
I mean, out of 5, 2's pretty good.
Yeah,
not terrible.
Yep,
not a great movie.
Yep,
not a terrible movie. When it comes to inclusion or cultural appropriateness, what would you give this on a scale of 1 to 5?
I'm afraid it's going to be a 0 for me, Patrick.
I mean, absolutely.
I can't. I mean, because honestly, there's nothing really else that there. I mean. The scene where they tried to bring in the different cultural influences is basically ruined, and there's really no other. They're really not doing anything else in the rest of the movie, so it's just they were not aiming for any kind of inclusion or cultural appropriateness with this movie.
No, it only took like 30 seconds of the movie to really give it a 0 for that reason alone. Okay, so what about our GDTD queer scale? And I'm sort of amending this a little bit.
Okay.
And when we say this about the queer scale, we don't mean like, are there gay characters? Was there gay representation? We do mean that, but also like included in that, does this have a place in LGBTQ in the universe of things that are queer or things that are part of the queer conversation? When, why, or why not?
I think so. I'm trying to think what the scale would be. I think there's something there that I can't quite put my finger on, but if I did, I'd have to wash it. No, I'm just no, sorry. That's the Golden Girls quote for you. You know what? I don't know. I don't think there's. It's like there's not. I mean, I was trying to go back, Patrick, and think about, do I think any of these characters are queer coded? And I honestly don't think there are any that are. I mean, I would say if you could say any, there could be. I really don't know. I don't think there's any queer coded characters in here, to be honest with you.
I wouldn't say so either. No,
I don't. No. I mean, there's really no one that's giving that at all. No. So I think on a queer scale, I mean, does this have a place in the LGBTQ plus universe? I mean, it doesn't not have a place, but like if this is your jam, then this is your jam. You know, but I'd have to say no.
Yeah, fair. I mean, I guess other than like Ava Gabor's in it.
Well, now let me go back.
Well,
okay,
and like the gays do love Ava Gabor.
Then you know what?
Like French history is involved in it.
Let me give it a 2.
I was going to say 1, but great, 2.
Well, I mean, Ava Gabor and, you know, French art and, you know...
Yeah.
And was Toulouse-Lautrec a queer artist?
No,
he was definitely a real person.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
So... there you go. There you have it. A lot of our tweeters, though, do love this movie. So, again, when you let us know why you love this movie so much, is there something queer about it that we're missing that we just aren't seeing?
Yeah.
Who can say? Who can say? Well, there we have it.
Yeah.
The Aristocats, JT.
And Patrick?
Yeah.
Why men great till they gotta be great?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Well, folks, there we are. The Aristocats, love it or hate it. That was our review of it.
You asked for it. There it is.
You asked for it. You literally asked for it. So there we are. Let us know your thoughts on our review of the Aristocats and your thoughts on the Aristocats itself. You can leave us those voice memos or those emails at info@gagethd.com, or you can slide into our DMs, as the kids want to say, at GDTD Podcast on Instagram.
Just reach out to your favorite Gabble sisters.
Just reach out to those drunk geese wobbling through Epcot. There will be.
Oh, gosh. I have Patrick. Patrick.
Yes, JT.
We may not be able to go to Destination D, but I have the next best thing for you.
What's that?
Some Quick D.
Ooh, featuring the cast of Green Acres.
Yes. It's the place where I want to be. Farm living is not the life for me.
No.
Okay, Patrick, are you ready for some Quick D? We've got some great feedback from our listeners. Are you ready?
I couldn't be more ready, JT.
Okay. All right. You're going on a cruise. What character is sharing your cabin? And where are you sailing to?
Oh, my stars. Oh, my stars. Okay, wait. First, who asked this question? That
I'm
matters
so sorry.
a lot.
I am so sorry. Traveling Theater Nerd asked this question. This comes from Traveling Theater Nerd. Thank you, Traveling Theater Nerd.
Does not surprise me that they would ask this question. You're
Does
going
their
on a
reputation
cruise.
precede
Okay,
them?
so who's sharing my cabin?
Who's sharing your cabin and where are you sailing?
Okay. Well, I mean, if I'm being quite honest, I'm currently, as you're listening to this, probably on the StarCruiser with my friend Justin and his husband Jack. So there's the literal answer.
Okay.
But beyond that,
yeah.
Beyond
we don't want your real answer.
No one wants that. Let's see. I'm on a cruise. I am on the new Disney Treasure when that opens up. Thank you so much.
Early adopter.
Thank you so much.
Maiden voyage. No maidens on that voyage, though.
No. Does my answer have to be a Disney character or just anybody?
I mean, we're it's a Disney podcast.
Yeah.
The question does say what character is sharing your cabin.
Oh, what character? Okay.
Yeah, and where are you sailing?
I think. I mean, probably. I mean, we all know it's going to be Flynn Rider, but you know who I'm feeling these days is Captain America. Either one.
Ooh, okay.
Either captains.
Okay.
It's a captain's cruise for me.
Every night at the captain's table.
It's the captain's quarters for me. That's that's my answer.
Can't fault you there. Can't fault you there.
Thank you so much. How about you?
So I am going on the Disney Wish.
Okay.
And I am sharing a cabin with, you know what? This just, I'm just going to go with my first instinct. It's not who I would normally pick, but for some reason, the character popped in my head and I'm going with it.
Great.
Phoebus.
Oh.
From Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah. Slept on, and he'll be slept on, I'm guessing.
He'll be slept on in this cabin.
Okay.
And we're going to sail. We're doing a transatlantic cruise.
I like it.
And we're going to his home country of France. He's bringing me over to introduce me to his family.
I love this journey for you. Also a captain. He's captain of the guards, isn't he?
Well, listen, we're just both at the captain's table on these cruises.
That's right. I'll throw Jude Law in there as Captain Hook as well. Can come.
Okay.
Listen,
we are captains courageous.
That's right. And I am a deckhand. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, Patrick. So, oh boy. I'll swab that deck.
Oh dear.
Okay, we better get to the next question before this goes down the tube.
Yes, please.
Okay, so Patrick.
Okay. We're already there.
Right, yeah, we're already,
yes, JT,
we're already
yes,
sunk.
JT, I'm ready.
Okay, so now you're off the cruise.
Great.
Because you have to get back to your day job, and your day job is as a Broadway actor.
Oh, of course.
So Kenny Cafe asks, what is your dream Broadway Disney role?
Oh, Broadway Disney role specifically.
Thomas Schumacher has come to you and said, Patrick, whatever Disney Broadway role you want, we will make happen for you.
Okay. Do you know who I think would be fun to play? And this is not funny at all. This is just really whomst would I like to play?
Whomst would you like to play?
Is Zazu in The Lion King. I think that would be a really fun
gosh, Patrick, you would be so good as Zazu.
Thank you so much. As long as they're bringing back the song Morning Report. I mean,
yes, I was literally thinking you would rock the Morning Report.
It's such a good song. The fact that they took it out of the Broadway show is just horrific.
It really is hideous. Yeah,
it's a gay crime that they took that one out.
It is a hate crime.
It's homophobic.
It is homophobic.
Yes.
We are barely out of Pride Month and
so
already being acted against.
It's true. It's true. So Zazu for me.
You would be such a perfect Zazu.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I know.
Okay, so for me, it would be a toss up between if I wanted to go comedic, Lumiere in Beauty and the Beast.
There you go. I could totally see that. Yep.
Dramatic if I just wanted to belt to the rafters and beyond.
Drama.
Quasimodo.
Ooh.
In The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
I like that you took big swings and I was like, I'll be a bird. I'll be Zazu.
Oh, listen, babe, we're going to be the star. We're not doing it.
Fair. I see these in your future. Do you know who I'd get cast as though? It's Michael Darling probably from if they bring back Peter Pan, I'm going to be Michael Darling.
Oh, you know what? I could be John Darling.
There you go. We are
be
darling.
Brothers.
We can be the
We
darling
are
brothers.
so darling.
Aren't we just darling?
We're darling. Kale could be Captain Hook.
Who
would Ryan be?
Ryan is Ursula or King Triton, maybe.
Well, I was specifically meaning Ryan in this Peter Pan scenario where you and I are the Darling brothers.
Oh, well, Ryan's Peter Pan then, probably.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I see it.
Yeah.
Or Wendy. Why not?
Or Wendy. Yeah.
We all do fight Kale.
But Peter.
Yeah. You know what? No, Ryan's Tinkerbell. He's our Tinkerbell.
Ryan is Tinkerbell.
Yeah, he's our
Ryan
Tinkerbell.
is Tinkerbell. Kale is Captain Hook.
Or the crocodile.
Right?
Yeah.
Or the
crocodile.
No, Kale is TikTok the crocodile.
He's just trying to mess up everyone's day.
That, I love it. That's perfect. That's perfect.
Or you and I could be the Banks children as well.
Ooh. I'll be Jane. You can be Michael.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes.
I will be Cass's
Listen, anything can happen if you let it.
That's right. Just think lovely thoughts.
Need a children role? Patrick and JT are here for you.
I'm very available, you guys. I'm very available.
Very available. That will do it for this episode of Gays Do the D. Thanks for listening. Ratings and reviews are greatly appreciated and help people find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher. To become a patron of the podcast, visit our website at gaysdothed.com/donate. For a donation of any amount, you can receive exclusive Gays Do the D content and help us continue to bring you the very best Disney news and discussion. You can continue the conversation after this episode on Instagram at GDTD Podcast and submit your questions or show ideas to info@gaysdothed.com. Have a great week, everybody. See you real soon.